This is the Building Walls podcast, episode number 56, recorded October 12th, 2021. Every disagreement doesn't need to be an argument.
That's why I made it a priority my entire career to work closely with you. From the time I got to the Senate 180 years ago.
No man has a right to raise a hand to a woman in anger other than in self-defense.
I'm prepared to say that I have a record of over 40 years and that I'm going to beat Joe Biden. Look at my record.
Calling this the Chinese virus. There are reports of dozens of incidents of bias against Chinese Americans in this country. Your own aide, Secretary Azar, says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus.
It's not racist at all. No, not at all. It comes from China.
Take a look at what New York has done in terms of turning the curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states.
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
Oh, that's so great. Welcome to the Building Walls podcast. We got some great people on with us, of course, as always, Mr. Co-host Christopher Dayton.
My man, fired up to be here. It's another week, another great show. It's going to be fun.
We have a very special guest, Miss Becky Alley.
I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah.
What do you have over there,
Go.
Becky? What is the drink of choice for tonight?
I got some XO Crown with a splash of Coke. It was too filthy the first time, so I'd add a little bit more Coca-Cola Classic to the beverage because it was going to make me grow chest hair. But now I'm good. It's a perfect balance. I feel happy about it.
Nobody wants to see the chest hair.
No,
yeah, chest hair is not ideal. Not
no,
ideal.
it's just bad, even for men. Right?
Yeah. As I've got my full-grown beard rocking here. But it's for a movie role. I'm going to be in a movie. It's going to be fun.
Dayton, give us the lowdown on how awesome Becky is. Give us that nice Amway LTD introduction.
Well, let me tell you guys, everybody, you're in for a treat today. And I say that because Becky and I go way back. I think it's like 5 or 6 years now that we've been hanging out. And I remember the first night I met Becky, we went to a bar and we just decided we were like pinky in the brain. We were going to be like, how are we going to take over the world together? And she has a background. She works in mortgages. We work together up in real estate here in the Southeast Michigan area. But she is one of the top 1% originators in the country. And so she really knows her stuff. I love her to death. She's one of my best friends. And so I'm super excited to share her with you guys tonight as we record this awesome podcast. So welcome, Becky. We're fired up to have you.
Yay, thanks. I like that introduction. Plus, you forgot that we literally recited every line of Coming to America, I think, from literally Coming to America is probably it is my favorite movie on the face of the planet. So as soon as I knew Chris had an affinity for that movie, it was just lights out. I'm like, he was meant for me.
Yes, I think it's when you busted out, I have a date with Lisa. Isn't that wonderful? I was like, oh my God, this chick is awesome.
I might have said Christopher. I think I replaced you. So
yeah, right. Yeah, we were definitely using it, but we're going to be royalty in Zamunda, which is, Coming to America. I mean, how could you go wrong?
Oh my God, you can't. I love it.
I've never seen that movie.
What?
In full. Should I say that out loud?
No,
to you
not
too?
in our presence. It's so good. It's so good.
So, Becky, let me ask you this. You're a top. Oh, do you have something to add to that, Chris?
No.
The Raz party?
I don't. No, I was
you can
I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
Nope, it's okay.
Right.
Nope, I love you, man.
So
you're good in my book.
You're a top 1% loan originator in the country. What is that based off of deals done? How does that work exactly?
Well,
because that's pretty awesome. Let me say that.
Thank you. I mean, there is probably some kind of secret algorithm that they pick, but you do have to break a certain threshold as far as volume goes. So it's how much money you're closing in volume. And then if you don't, so they don't hate on people that maybe they're in a state where maybe the minimum loan amount isn't so big. So let's just say you close a lot of units, right? Which means that you out hustle 90% of whoever's out there as well. So you have to hit a certain amount of closed loans if you don't hit the volume part of it. So last year, the last several years, we've made it both in volume and units. So you got to be out here hustling. It's a full-time job. You can't just be like, oh, it's not a onesie twosie kinds of thing. So I've had to crawl and scratch and make my seat at the table, but but here we are, and I appreciate your guys' kind introduction. But it's tough. It's hard out here for a pimp. Let's just leave it like that.
So let me. I feel like I want to put that.
Awesome.
I want to put that in some different terms, right? So if you think about the top 1%, how awesome that is.
The top 1% of anything.
Yeah,
right? If I'm top 1%
exactly.
of freaking awesome people that walk this country, thank you.
So you have, let's say, high school football players, right? There's a ton of them out there. And it's something like the top 3 to 5% go to college. And then even a smaller percentage of that goes to a D1 school. Mm-hmm. And then you have college football players. And 3 to 5% of them, if even that, make it into the NFL. So for you to be a top 1% loan originator, I just want to give you some mad props right now. It's like being a professional, a true professional at the highest level in your industry. That's fantastic, and I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I guess you don't think it like that. Like I know Chris is the same way. It's like you almost, when you hit like a milestone, you kind of just be like, okay, you see it and then you move on past it, right? It's like you acknowledge it for yourself, but then you got to move right past it, right? Because I feel like that just, if you're a goal-oriented person, when you hit those milestones, you're just like, okay, well then what's the next accomplishment, right? So, but thank you very much. I'm definitely not trying to bury it, but it's definitely like I'm always trying to improve as everyone is really.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, you deal with a lot of public people. You deal with the public. You're dealing with crazy people all the time. So, we have a pretty big clown world that we're living in right now. I'm sure we could tell stories about that all day long. But,
yes, that is true. I mean, I would say that my best job in life was being a bartender, right? Because you get to talk and learn about everybody and their business when they're drunk and they're just slinging their things at you while you're mixing them a cocktail.
Everything. Which
I'm not very good at anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're making your drinks filthy.
Yeah, nasty.
Speaking of filthy, let's talk about COVID. What a transition.
That's a great segue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I had COVID, I did feel dirty. I felt dirty because I had to call people and tell people I had COVID. And it's almost like, hey, I know you and I were together a little earlier. And
might have got a little rowdy.
You might want to go get tested.
That is so true, though. It's like you feel like you're spreading the gingivitis to everybody or something. I don't know. It is crazy because I did have COVID as well, and it was like you are wearing the scarlet letter. Like you feel. I felt shameful. I'm like, oh my god, it's a year and a half later. It happened to me. Why? But then, there was a microphone involved, and everyone was singing out of the same microphone. So I guess it was inevitable, but. I mean, if I went down, it was in a good way, I guess. But you're right. It's a shameful feeling because you do have to call because there's the people that you don't know how it's going to affect them, right? It's not about you. It's about how someone else is going to be affected by it.
It's like I feel like it's almost like the Mucinex commercial where you're that big germ just going around and just trying to give everyone the cold and flu.
It's my time.
Listen, okay, so here's the other thing. So we had COVID in March. Okay, so then we have a daughter. Talia is 9. She got it in just like 2 months ago or a month and a half ago. And, before they were talking about how, it affects kids differently and they're not gonna be able to get it and all this other stuff, right? So now they're back in school, right? And they're like licking the plexiglass that they're using to try to separate the kids and, whatever it is that they do. And so now Talia had it. And, so that we also had to have those same shameful conversations with our friends because kids cannot keep their hands to themselves. You can't do it. So we had to have the same conversations and But it's weird though, because we have a group of friends that are all about the vaccinations, and then you have the group of friends that are not, right? So we're, and the kids were all mixed, right? So we had this conversation. We're like, hey, just so you know, Talia has it out of respect, XYZ. And they're like, oh, we think it's strep. And, so they didn't even bother with the test, because even though like they had showed all the same symptoms that Talia had, they just didn't even bother having their child tested, because in their heart of hearts, that's not even what they believe. And they didn't want to hear the words COVID, because they didn't want to maybe I'm projecting, I don't know, but they just didn't even have their child tested for it. Right. So it's like, and that's where it gets a little sticky, in my opinion.
It made me think of Wedding Crashers, by the way, when you said, stop projecting. When he's got him in the corner. Stop projecting.
Yeah, you're projecting.
No, you stop.
You can
projecting
sulk
on me. Yeah.
You can sulk. Don't bring attention to yourself in a negative manner. Well, no, Becky, we don't have to, our show is not to declare our, I guess our flag in politics or anything like that. And I certainly subscribe to the theory of having open dialogue and discussion and open to the ideas for both sides. Mm-hmm. So let's just get down to it. I mean, what's your take on the vaccine mandate?
Well,
do you think the general public, or do you think the government has the right to tell you what to do in that regard for the vaccine mandate?
No, I don't. Honestly, I really don't think so. Because you have your human rights, your civil rights, and all that stuff. But the state of Hawaii does have the right to tell me that I have to be fully vaccinated before I can go into one of their establishments. Otherwise, I have to, eat outside. I'm getting married in a couple months, and I'm going to Hawaii for my honeymoon. And, reading about the who's and whys, because you could be a part of the United States, but Hawaii clearly is one of their own. They're separate, right? They make their own rules and they do what they want to do. So, they have no problem telling you you can't sit with us if you are not vaccinated, right? And that's really what it comes down to. It's, I understand that it's about the safety of everyone, and everyone has their own rights and their beliefs. I'm not currently vaccinated right now, but I'm going to have to get vaccinated to not have to self-quarantine for 10 days as soon as I step on Hawaiian soil. And who wants to go to Hawaii and quarantine in wherever they want to force me to quarantine? I don't want to do that. So now that's forcing my hand. And I feel like that's kind of where it's going, where they're going to put you in these positions where you're not going to really have a choice. It's either going to be like, okay, well, do you want filet mignon, or do you want this cat food that's moldy, that's been sitting here for a long time? You can have this as long as you have a vaccine. And that's kind of where it's going, right? For lack of a better
Is that right?
analogy.
Should they be able to do that? Do you think?
No, don't get me wrong. I understand that it's about protecting civilization and, the, people that are going to be negatively affected by this, this disease, in a sense that, for example, my niece, she has Guillain-Barré syndrome. Okay. Or she had it. She didn't fully recover from it. Okay. So she ended the 4th grade as a normal kid, and she started the 5th grade in a wheelchair. She lost all of her independence, all of the things that, she had to show her tutoritis to doctors 2-3 times a day. And she's this little child that's, it's uncomfortable. Right. And she's gotten all of her capacities back except for her feet. Her ankles don't work, right? But not only is she in one of those high risk to this disease, if she were to get it, the COVID-19, I don't know if it's a disease, but the pandemic, sickness. Virus, yes. Sorry. So she is in a high risk. If she were to get it, it was going to be detrimental to her body. But she also cannot get the vaccine because she has Guillain-Barré. It could have negative impacts on, it could force her to relapse. So it's like this weird thing that they don't really know the effects of how these vaccines are going to affect people. And so she can never be vaccinated at this point because she's not cleared to do so by her doctor. So what do you do in those situations? There's just a lot of unanswered questions. And then you also keep here, not to be long-winded, but the reason why I'm talking about it is because I just read about it. So on the Hawaiian website, you have to do this health and safety screening, right? Where I have to share my flight times, where I'm going. Am I vaccinated? Am I not vaccinated? I have to either have a vaccination card, whatever, and I can have a negative COVID test, et cetera, right? But then there's also verbiage on there that says that if I can show that I have successfully recovered from COVID within the last 30 days, then that will exempt me, right, from having to have a vaccination, and I won't have to quarantine. So that does show that there is some weight behind the fact that if you've had it and recovered it, that these antibodies that they speak about, do come into the topic of, the vaccination versus have you had it? Are you, can you get it again? There's just a lot of unknowns, which is, but you can tell that they're talking about all of it because it's even on the Hawaiian website because I just read it last night. So.
And there's a lot of stuff to that with getting the vaccination, and I haven't looked into it too much yet, but based on the vaccination site where you're given the dose, there's a higher amount of antibodies there versus other parts of your body, and even over time. And I feel like it's very interesting what you said because it's so spot on that, even though you may not agree with it from a federal government point of view, I feel like one of the great things about the U.S. and the Constitution that we have is so many of these things were made to be rules by the state, right? If you don't like what one state does, I mean, it's not this simple, but for the conversation's sake, then move to a different state. That's what's so great about it is it's not just England, right? England ruled overall. And they wanted to take something and say, hey, if you want your state to do something different, then do something different, right? But we're not going to have a mandate from a governmental perspective. And at the same instance, if we have that state mandate and you want to go to Hawaii for your honeymoon, then get vaccinated, right? But if you don't want to go to Hawaii because you don't want to get vaccinated, then don't go to Hawaii. But at least you have that choice, right? It's state by state. It's not from the federal level.
Right.
So attack helicopter. Can you, I think some very interesting would be good to dive into with that is to jump into that video of the doctor from UCLA so a doctor was being escorted from UCLA because he's not vaccinated. A doctor.
Being escorted out of 200 Medical Plaza at Westwood, Santa Monica for standing up for freedom. We've got Edward Galvin here and Andrea Agins.
I guess we totally should have queued up Becky for this.
Say hi, sir.
You don't have sound.
They are escorting me out the building. What's your title, sir?
Don't come near me.
What's your title?
Don't come near me.
Okay.
Keep walking.
And this is what happens when you stand up for freedom and when you show up to work, willing to work, despite being unvaccinated.
He's in turmoil.
And this is the price you have to pay sometimes. But what they don't realize is that I'm willing to go lose everything. Job, paycheck, freedom, even my life for this cause. Be well. United we stand. Divided we fall.
It's so great that we have a guest on our show and we totally forget to cue her for and let her know about the part where there's no sound on our end.
They're like, oh.
Yeah, I need to get that working. I will have that working for next week. So
no, that's not your fault whatsoever.
The chopper over your hair.
Yeah. So I'd like to get both of your takes on this. The very crazy thing about this is that a nurse, a doctor, all of these people worked through COVID before there was a vaccine. Mm-hmm. They weren't asked not to work during all this time. They were asked to, as far as everyone knew, to put their lives on the lines. And now that it's the point of a vaccine mandate, they're asked to either get vaccinated, even though, like you said, Becky, there could be something with them why they can't get vaccinated or lose their job.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, and that's what you're saying. It's like everything is up for discussion. And when you don't know what someone has personally, like where it could be detrimental to their health. I mean, even the flu vaccine, like my niece, Natalie, because she has Guillain-Barré, she can't even get the flu vaccine, because of that. And what do you say to that? Like, she should never be employed. I mean, she has to drive a car with hand controls because her feet, like she can walk and do what she's supposed to do, but because of her braces, she doesn't have that knee-jerk response that you need to drive a car, but so she drives a car with hand controls. And, this is something that's going to affect her for the rest of her life. So why should, she be in a position where not only is she be discriminated against in some capacity because her body physically will not accept the vaccination properly, or there's not enough data for her to be able to get the vaccination safely. And that was also a big concern. Like, even when it was like, I mean, it's still a concern of ours, don't get me wrong, but, like her safety is always top of mind with our family because of that. Right. And, my parents are diabetic and, I had it, and anything but death is mild, in my opinion, when it comes to COVID. Right. So if someone's like, what were your symptoms? Mild, because I didn't pass away. Okay. So everything is mild, in my opinion, if you didn't pass away. And I think it's very unfortunate that it is so, I don't know, like it's so circumstantial, right? 5 people could have it and be like nothing. And then you have someone that's my age, my stature, my health, and they are on a ventilator that might not make it. I mean, it is very unfortunate. All of it is sad, and there's nothing really positive to say about it. But, to that degree, I understand the thought of the vaccine and the mandates. I understand it, right? You fear what you don't know, right? But then you also have people like my niece with Guillain-Barré who has to be fearful for what she doesn't know is entering in her body because her own body attacked itself, right? So Guillain-Barré is your immune system. It's an autoimmune disease. Your body attacks itself, right? You don't know why. It could be a bladder infection, it could be this, could be that, right? So now you're introducing these foreign things to your body, and it could trigger it. And what are you going to do? Like, you can't go to college, Natalie, because you can't be vaccinated. Like, what are you going to do? Like, what is she going to do? She's a senior this year. These are things that we have to be concerned with. And who would have ever thought in our right minds that this would ever be a reality that we have to face for the generations behind us, like even for our own generation, but like for the kids, like you got these little kindergartners. My fiance, she is she works at one of the elementary schools, and you have these little kindergartners that have to wear these masks all day, and then they're separated by plexiglass, and you're trying to get them to stop licking the plexiglass because they're children, and that's just what they want to do. And you're trying to keep everyone safe. And what do you like? I understand both sides of it. It's like you're fighting this losing battle, but you're trying to control what you can't control, and it is frustrating. I mean, so you got to like draw a line somewhere, I guess. I don't know, but there's just a lot of unknowns too.
So it's funty what you mentioned. I mean, I don't know if you were reading the notes when you said it, but I feel like we should have Becky on the show every week to just
I did not read any of the notes.
The perfect transition to get into the next point that we had, which was about college kids being also mandated for the vaccine. So there's a kid that goes to UCLA that's not vaccinated, and he's going to be dropped from his UCLA classes that are all online. Every class he has is online.
They're online. They're not even, he doesn't have to physically be there, and they're dropping him.
After we've already paid $70,000 for the year if I don't upload something about my vaccine status when all my classes are online. Got it.
I love the guy.
So you can cut it there, Matt.
All of his class.
Yeah, he was on a phone call with his admissions person or whatever, and he said, so what you're telling me, right, is that I'm going to be dropped from my classes because I'm not vaccinated, even though they're all online? And they say, correct.
Huh.
What?
Isn't that the point of online, is so that way you're not in the position to be, like affected by human contact? So and isn't that the point of why kids were still going to school in elementary school, virtual, so that way they were not in the position to have their health at risk. I mean, I guess I don't understand that. It's contradicting, in my opinion. I don't agree. Circle does not get the square.
So, Chris, I mean, at what point does this just become utter stupidity, right?
That's silly to me.
I can't even handle the clown world that we live in right now.
Hollywood squares, I disapprove. Circle does not get the square.
I disapprove. You know, I think there's just so much information and so much misinformation that's going on out here. And then there's just people, quite frankly, one of the biggest things that we have right now is we have a highlight on our leadership and the fact that these people do not know what they're doing and how in the world that they become our leaders or in positions of leadership to make the decisions that they're making. I mean, honest to God, how are you in a position to tell a student who is remote online class that because of their vaccination status is somehow threatening to get a higher education through your institution? I mean, it's just so stupid. It's like, if that's really your take, then thank you for doing me a favor and letting me know that you're a complete moron. And any piece of paper that you give to me that says I graduated from here would also state that I am a moron.
A circle would get the square for me on that one, Chris. Circle gets the square.
Yep. Circle gets the square.
I mean,
I
you're right.
believe
It's like a walking contradiction. You know, you're literally going to penalize them for them taking their own health, you know, and be like, just kidding, because we offer online classes to offset for the threat against COVID-19, but because you're not vaccinated, you're going to poison us with your eyes through the camera, is what you're saying. Like, I'm going to give you the gingivitis through the camera lens of my computer. That sounds really dumb.
What they're really saying is, because you won't conform to what we tell you you have to do, we're going to punish you.
I like to call it gingivitis.
All right.
You're conforming is gingivitis. And no offense to anyone that has gingivitis. I just like that word.
I honestly
Hey, you
think
know what
that
they
you're
say?
insulting
Looks can kill, right?
Yeah. The looks can kill, especially if you have freaking gingivitis.
Gingivitis does not deserve that kind of treatment. It
doesn't. I apologize. If you have gingivitis, I just like that word. It's a non-threatening word.
So what about this graphic we've got queued up here?
Yeah.
Chad, tell us about this. I mean, you're the one that found this, so it's insane to me.
I think the better part about this graphic is the gentleman with his wife, I assume, in the Twitter picture. I'm not sure when that's like a photo of a real estate agent that's stuck with them for 20 years. So according to the CDC,
Agegma team.
So according to the CDC health fraud detection expert, the number of vaccine deaths in the U.S. is not 15,386. It's somewhere between 80,000 and 160,000. So I have no idea where those numbers come from.
I mean, it's very broad. That's a huge. Yeah, that's huge.
The point behind that is, if the risk to you dying from the vaccine is just as much as the risk from you dying without the vaccine from COVID, then at what point does it matter if you take the vaccine or not?
I think it's also, again, it comes down to they don't know. They don't know, right? Because I had it and I fully recovered, so it's mild, right? Chris had it, he fully recovered, it's mild, right? But the same person that got it could be also vaccinated. So let's just say I got vaccinated. I could have been asymptomatic and no one even know that I had it. I'm just out here spreading it around and I have no idea that I even have COVID because now I'm vaccinated. So that makes me asymptomatic. I show zero symptoms, right? So that means I'm a lethal weapon walking around with no symptoms, but I got my vaccination card, right? That means I can go anywhere I want because I'm like VIP now. So does that make someone that can fully recover from COVID asymptomatic and I'm even more of a lethal threat, right? And then is the same person that this big 80 to 160,000, right? Someone that got vaccinated, they would have passed on anyway if they would have got it. I mean, that's the problem, is that it's so new and so novel that there's just not enough data to really disseminate the real information. And it's, they can really even know.
Becky, I literally know of 2 people who were vaccinated who got COVID and who have died.
Really?
Yep.
So that's what I see. I don't know of anyone that's been vaccinated that's passed away. I do know unvaccinated that have passed away, but it just raises those questions though.
Correct. It raises those questions as to, okay, well, what was the point if these people did get the vaccination and then
That's
in
really
spite
important.
of that
I'm sorry.
still passed away? No, I wouldn't say they were in my personal circle. I just know of 2 people.
Okay.
Like two people removed from me.
Either way,
from
we're
my
sorry
circle.
for those
Right.
families, but it's unfortunate because anything else is mild, right? No matter how severe your symptoms are, it is mild with the extent of it. But you do wonder, right? Does the vaccine really have that much of effect, or would it be the same ending no matter what? Because that's just what's in their DNA, and there's nothing you can do about it, or their pre-existing situation, right? That's the scary. For me, that's the scary part. I understand you're trying to control what you can't control with the government and things like that, but that's the part that is scary to me, is because you really just don't know what is going to be separating you from me, right? And Chad from you. Like, what is it in our bodies that are like a ticking time bomb that this virus is not going to agree with, vaccination or not? Or what if the vaccination like made them worse? I don't want to think like that, obviously, because I'm going to Hawaii and I don't have a choice. But
Yeah, I think the tough part in this is, like you said, one, the government never wants to come out and say, I don't know, because that would cause mass panic.
Listen, but they know what you were talking about at Christmas dinner that you're shopping for online. So I don't want to say.
Yeah, right. So I mean,
they know you're looking at the TV.
Yeah, ever since this has started, we've gone from everyone's got to stay indoors because you'll die, to, well, they don't have to stay indoors, to everyone has to wear a mask. Well, they don't have to wear a mask, to you should wear 2 masks. You should get vaccinated. If Joe Biden came out and said, if you get the vaccination, you can no longer spread COVID. Well, now we've seen that that's not true, right? But if they came out and said that we don't know, I mean, Chris, I think this is time to cue up the weekly rant. You're getting right into it. Becky mentioned it. Christmas, gathering for Christmas, talking about COVID. Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I've got a rant. I've got a real problem with
I thought I was your rant.
No. Oh, no. Here we go. Ready, Becky? Here we go. I'm telling you guys that Dr. Fauci he's lost his mind, and I don't care. I can't even take this guy anymore. I can't take it seriously because he literally just came out within the last week and said it's too early. It's too early to know if we're going to be able to get together as families and celebrate Christmas, if we're going to gather at Christmas time. And yet it's so funny because Chad, you and I, we play DraftKings together and we, bet on sports.
They don't talk about my betting habits like that.
I just turned on the TV on Saturday. There's college stadiums all across the country filled to the brim with people doing what? Yelling and screaming. I mean, we just had the Red River Showdown down in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl, and there's like 80,000 people going nuts. By the way, we fill up the Big House here in Michigan. All these people, 100,000 strong. We've got stadiums all across the country on, now Thursday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and then Monday Night Football. There's all these people gathering, but that's apparently taboo. We can't do that. It's too early to say if we're going to be able to get together and celebrate with family. By the way, when was the last time we needed his permission? Since when did Dr. Fauci become the arbiter of what we can do and what we can't do, and the author of the Constitution? When did he rewrite it to, the Fauci articles? Because last time I checked, this is America. And if I want to meet with my damn family for Christmas, I'm going to meet with my damn family. And it's going to be a shit show for sure. I get it, because that's what families do. But it's my family. And I'm going to open some presents if I want to open some presents.
You're like all the people.
This is the pinnacle of the clown world that we're living in right now, and a clown show that is just every single day there's something new, and these people have lost their minds. And I'm telling you, I'm not going to play in their circus anymore. The act is up. We're done. Adios.
Listen, I gotta add to the circle, to your rant. Okay, so I have a daughter that plays a musical instrument, right? So you're talking about people are in school, the colleges, they're all over there yelling and spitting and all over the place, right? But while she's in her class playing her saxophone, she has to wear a mask with a slit cut. Where
come on.
Oh you can't make it up. It looks like a Muppet. So they have these so when she's talking, she looks like a Muppet, right? But it's so now, mind you, it's not like she's spraying. She's this is a controlled instrument, right, that she's playing, but they have to wear a mask with a little slit just to cover about, mind you, their bells can do whatever they're going to do. But you're right. It's so contradicting. It is so silly. It's like Big Top Circus, Pee Wee Herman, the Piccolo Poopo brothers freaking on the trapeze, and the bearded lady out here and doing their things and whatever.
I thought the pictures of that were absolutely fake. I had no idea that those were real pictures.
I swear, when I saw
changed.
the pictures online, and then she really sent me a pic, I was like, I need to know that you really have to do this at school. And she's in high school now. Legit. Looks like and talking, looking like a freaking Muppet. Muppet babies out here.
Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey. This is the clown world that we live in. It's Biden and Fauci running the clown show. It's so dumb. I can't even handle it.
And it's literally, the crazy
let's all
thing
drink.
is,
Hold on. Let's all drink to that. Let's
Huzzah!
drink to the clown world. Huzzah!
I wish hey, get to the chopper, play the clown music, like the
So I like throwing in stuff like this, and yeah, I feel like some people can come on and think like, oh, you guys are so against this or against that. So even though we're throwing a few digs at Fauci and Biden, the crazy thing about all this and the vaccinations is this all started during the Trump administration.
Mm-hmm.
The Trump administration was the first ones pushing the vaccine mandate. But everyone on the left said, oh, no, I'm never taking the vaccine. Kamala Harris was out there. I'll never take the vaccine because I'll never take a Trump vaccine. Mm-hmm. But now you're pushing it. So it's so obvious if kids are playing the saxophone through a hole cut through a mask.
Oh, it's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's very silly to see.
It is all about government control. It is not about anything else. They want to control your life because they want the power.
But right? I mean, is that anything different though? I mean, we already know this though. If it's Republican and Powell, it's freaking bam. If it's a Democrat, it's freaking bam. It doesn't matter who's in power. Right's going to be against left, left's going to be against right, unless you're ambidextrous, which the United States is not. We cannot be both at the same time. It is bizarre. Because we already know the answers, right? It don't matter. If it was a Democrat in power, they're going to be the Antichrist. If it was a Republican in power, they're going to be the Antichrist during the COVID thing. And now after, it doesn't matter who's really in power. People are always going to have some kind of disagreements with what's happening. So I agree with you, Chad.
Yeah, if they can't create division, well, why do they even have a job? Why do we even have elections, right? All they do is create division up and down. But with that said, let's get into something a little happier that hits close to home
now you
for
want
the
to be
two
happy?
of you.
I know. It is.
I'm going to take the tone
if it comes
down.
to America, no,
I'll
you
lower
suck.
my voice.
Nothing about it.
So, Dayton, hit us with this story, because I don't live in Michigan anymore. I don't care about Michigan. You guys can live in Michigan.
Blasphemy.
Yeah. The greatest state in the union.
Right.
Anyway.
All right,
so,
hold on.
Yeah, shut up, Chad. So this is a great story, and
fix those damn roads.
You're the damn road.
She's allowing a 79-year-old guy named David to be speeding through the neighborhoods, and honestly, he gets pulled over. He gets pulled over by the Sterling Heights Police Department, a routine traffic stop, actually, and he's visibly very upset. He's just genuinely jacked up. He's upset. The cop knows something's wrong. And keep in mind, it's a 79-year-old man. He's driving a car. He's upset.
This moved me to tears.
I mean, seriously.
This.
So the cops go, "What's going on?" And he's like, I'm just trying to get a new TV and get it hooked up for my wife. And if I'm remembering this correctly, doesn't she have like an illness of some sort?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. He said she was sick, and his son is special needs. They have a child, son, daughter, someone that lives up with them with special needs.
And so he's just trying to get an upgraded TV. He can't figure out how to do it. And instead of, just being all hardcore and forgetting humanity, these cops do the right thing. This is why we defend the blue, because there are great police officers out there who go up and beyond what needs to be done. And they said, hey, you know what? Go home. When we get off of our shift, I'll come by and I'll help you. And this police officer rolled up with a couple of his cop buddies after their shift and went and helped this guy set up his TV for him, his wife, and his special needs kid. And it gives me faith in humanity, honestly, that okay, we can see through some of the nonsense in this clown world that we're living in, and actually people can stick out a hand and help one another. So kudos to
there's two things there, Chris. I mean, there is faith in humanity, but then there's also faith in that kind of love, right? Yeah. He was physically and visually distraught, and all he wanted was to hook up a TV to make his wife happy. You can even hear the dialogue where he said, I just want to make her happy. And I can't imagine, even when a child has special needs, I mean, the exhaustion and just when you're trying to make everything perfect again and something you can't make perfect for them, so the fact that is all he wanted to do, and the officers could see that and hear that in his voice. That was a 3 cheers and 2 snaps for humanity and all in one, because for love, humanity, for humans in general, that is a good feel-good story. And I'm so glad that I came across that one random morning and I actually clicked on it because it was beautiful. Yeah. It reminded me of my father. It reminded me of something that he would do. He's one of those that leads by example kind of man. He is not going to be he's not going to do things be look what I did. I took out the trash. There's people out there that they got to get a for everything they do. He's just out here just a silent assassin, freaking taking out everyone's trash, and he's not even saying anything about it. He's a freaking hey, he's how it is. There's people out there
that's funny.
Hey, let's cut the grass. I want you to know I did it. Whatever.
Yeah, it's
Becky. Tell me you didn't love me when you thought that I was a goat herder.
Oh my gosh.
I will renounce my throne.
I can't say that I didn't love you when you were a goat herder, because I was a goat herder.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much more, right? If we get rid of all of this division and all of this,
Get out. Have a day with Lisa, isn't that wonderful?
Y'all are crazy. But there's so many more good people out there that if everyone was just able to live their lives the way they wanted, I mean, things would be so much different, right? If we weren't told what we had to do, I mean, how much better would we function as a society if we turned off the news, right? If we stopped clicking on all the clickbait links that Attack Helicopter likes to put out there. If Chris stopped smacking flies,
I know, seriously, I can't handle it right now. It's driving me nuts.
But there's so many things that just go out there and live life how you want it. And I think we really need to get back to some of that.
I agree with that. And I also agree with the whole, it's not even just being told what to do. It's also how we allow other people to enter our space and affect us. So I put a post out there that said, don't let, I feel like a lot of another issue is that we allow people to come into our circle to penetrate our atmosphere, and then we slowly let them attack us from the inside out, right? And then you lose who you are, whether it's in a bad relationship or you're maybe in a bad career or something like that, right? I mean, everyone's situation is different, but people have influence on you if, you know, and you want to look in the good at people and right. You want to let these people in because you can't be the Teflon Don, right? Not everyone can be the Teflon Don where nothing sticks to you and you're out here freaking, I don't care what you say and do, right? Naturally, as humans, right, we love to meet people. I'm a curious person. I like to meet people. I like to know what they're about. But it is unfortunate, right, when you let these people in your atmosphere and then you feel them penetrate your soul in a negative way. It's, you know, and you got to then you got to remove them from yourself, right? And then that's the whole thing. But all of the things, all of it, Chad. So
as long as they don't penetrate me in ways that I don't like.
Yeah, we're not talking alien penetration. We're talking about your spirit.
And if I'm in jail, I really don't want to have any penetration. If I
drop
ever
your
end up in
soap
prison.
then.
Let's not get off track. I'm talking about
Whoa, a
spirit.
tech helicopter.
Our souls, boys.
Yeah, you got to have your soap on a rope, right? So,
Dude.
let's get into this, Mr. Chris. We got a live stream coming pretty soon here. We're going to be on the live stream, talk about unfiltered, unedited, which might not be good. I don't know. We'll figure it out. And if you're out there listening to this show every week, we love it. We hope this show has been informing for you. We hope you like listening to our jibber jabber, our special lovely guests that we have on. And, you know, and we hope that it really gives you the opportunity to develop your own thoughts and ideas about what's going on. And of course, you know, the laugh and entertainment. So we've been producing the show mostly as a pre-recorded podcast for a while now, but we're taking it to the next level. Starting in a few weeks here, October 26th, we're going to be live streaming the podcast every single week. I don't know how we feel about that, but Mr. Producer said it was a good idea. So, I mean, if he's doing it, I guess we're doing it, right, Chris?
That's right.
Everybody's doing it.
So, you know, jump onto our YouTube channel. Just search the Building Whalls podcast on YouTube. We should be right at the top. And, you know, let's see how this goes. It's definitely a clown show every week with some really good stuff in between.
Hey, Becky, would you watch a live stream of this?
Because,
if
like
you
I
could
said,
see the,
it's totally unfiltered.
if you could see the behind the scenes, if you're watching this and you're like logged in or whatever, you're watching like how we set up the show and do all this stuff. Is that interesting to you? Or do you think you...
Yes, I think some of the best content comes when the cameras are not rolling. Like even when like we're doing the radio show, like when we're all just like blah, 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 you know, like some of the best things that come out are when you're just being candid, right? You're being transparent and you try to be as transparent as you can, right? No matter what, even when the camera's on. But when you're just getting a little bit of flow and the camera isn't rolling, some of the best content and information comes in those moments, you know, just off the cuff, you know. So yes, I do concur. I think it's great, you know, so that way you can just really build the authenticity that you guys are trying to do with this podcast, you know, because that way you're seeing it on and off no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's great for people to see when I have to go to the bathroom after we've been recording.
Yeah,
everyone's
trying to see
half, and
my
I
filthy
just gotta
drink.
go. Yeah,
filthy drink. Yeah.
And I came in like a freaking tornado, and I was like, "Ooh, are you late? I'm late. I'm sorry. Bye." My drink.
Well, I mean, it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a good time doing the live stream. It should be pretty interesting for everybody. So
it'll be a good time. Talking about the transparency of things. Tell us about Jon Gruden and cancel culture. What's been going on in the NFL, Chris?
Dude, the NFL is in a tough spot, my man. It really is. The stuff that's happening is highlighted, you know, and honestly, this is cancel culture. It struck again. And this time its victim was Jon Gruden. And nobody's safe. I mean, people are going to find what you did, you know, 5, 10, 20 years ago, whatever. In this case, Jon Gruden, the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, sent a couple provocative emails, maybe things that were in poor taste 10 years ago. Or, quite frankly, what happens a lot with cancel culture is people extract what they want out of the content and then twist it around to be a hell of a lot worse than what it really is. Because who's kidding who? can we just cut to the chase here? If people think that other people don't talk like this amongst friends or in their groups or in their circles, then you're just about as naive as they come. And you know what? I don't have time for people who are going to play that card of being like, oh, that's not the way it should be. Maybe so. And I agree. But it is what it is. And you think that the football guys aren't going to be talking about crazy stuff or, you know, a million sexual innuendos or, just whatever. That's what people do. It's maybe doesn't create the right culture or what you're looking for. But, man, I struggle with that because obviously I don't agree with the things that Jon Gruden said, specifically his email. And you can get into that if you want, Chad, but I just don't know, man. I think, man, you're being held to a standard that's almost impossible. And this is why people need Jesus.
So
you can't live up to the standard here. You need Jesus.
Speaking of Jesus, the first thing I think of when it comes to cancel culture is, there's that story of Jesus approaches the Pharisees who are all holding a stone and the prostitute in the middle of the square. And the one Pharisee looks at Jesus and says, hey, Jesus, she's a prostitute. She's broken the law. She should be stoned. What should we do? And Jesus says, he without sin casts the first stone. And it's exactly what you said. How many?
Yeah.
Everyone
Jesus,
who wants to cancel.
Hey, Jesus, this is a woman who bangs dudes for money.
I mean, that's one way to put it.
Come on.
So the thing is, though, with this, right, is everyone who's a part of this cancel culture is essentially admitting themselves blameless to all of this. Now, I take that on the second part. Jon Gruden, you're an idiot. You're gonna send emails of this stuff. You're stupid. You're as stupid as they come. If you're gonna put something in a digital format and you don't think anyone's gonna ever find it, now granted, it was a
so when were these emails sent though? I didn't see that part. When
over 10 years ago.
Okay,
10 years ago.
Okay.
So here's what's crazy about it. It was a Washington football team email probe. Had nothing to do with Gruden, but they were probing the FBI was the Washington football team. And then they found these emails from 10 years ago. And like one of the emails that Chris mentioned was about DeMaurice Smith. And Jon Gruden started it by saying his whole phrase was, anyone who is a liar has rubber lips. And he was saying DeMaurice Smith, who is a black man, was a liar. And he's saying his lips are just like the Michelin, or as big as the Michelin's man, or the Michelin man's, saying that he's a liar, that he has rubber lips. And now the people who want to cancel him based on that statement that was never implying race.
Was that confirmed that what he meant by that? I mean, or is it like, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever bounces off me sticks to you?
Yeah, so it wasn't confirmed because no one wants to talk about the whole, right? They only want to talk about the one sentence.
Here, let me
their
say
point of view.
Are you the same person that you were 10 years ago?
No one is, right?
Right. You're constantly evolving. You're constantly wanting to be the person that I was when I was 21 versus 31 versus what I'm going to be when I'm 51. I hope to God is a shadow of what I was when I was 21. Right. So when you guys speak of the cancel culture, I feel like there also needs to be some grace. Right. But there isn't. You're holding someone to a standard of the shadow of a person they were 10 years ago. And that's unfortunate to think that a man of his stature that is now a head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders has not evolved in the culture that we're in where, gays and lesbians and transgenders, it's accepted, right? You don't have to hide anymore, right? They're openly gay athletes. And so to hold him to this point of ridicule where he is forced to resign, yes. Could he openly say he made a mistake? Yeah. Am I going to, want someone crucified for something? Let me just talk about me. Do I want to be crucified for something that I said 10 years ago when I was some naive, living unfulfilled life? No, I don't want someone to cancel me 10 years ago when I'm not that person anymore. So I feel like there needs to be some kind of, there needs to be some kind of balance there because it's unfair. And I had to plug myself back in because I was dying, but I don't agree with that.
Chad, I think I totally agree with the fact that you're a different person than you were 10 years ago and that I was 10 years ago. I actually had a former partner of mine in real estate I had reached out to because we had a pretty bad falling out and it was ugly and it kind of sucked how things ended. But, I reached out and I said, hey, a lot's changed since we've gotten, we're, in business together. Let's get together. Let's kind of bury the hatchet and just kind of see if we can't move on. Because I'm trying to clear up any negative, that I've got in my life. I don't want people out there angsting, over situations. And this person said, yeah, let's do that. And then when I sent a text to say, hey, I know we talked about getting together. I'm actually going to be out towards that way, whatever day it was. This person responded back and they wrote, you know what? I'm not going to get together because I've learned that when people tell you who they are, to believe them. And so I have no interest in getting together. And I really thought, I was like, wow, okay, no big deal. It doesn't matter to me one bit because I, got a clear conscience on it. But then I thought, wow, how sad is that this person won't even allow for growth of other people in their life, that they're just stuck being miserable. They're just stuck dealing with the crap in life. And it's almost like they'll never be able to break free. So it wasn't hurtful to me that they didn't want to get together and just kind of talk through things. What do I care? I'm going to go live my life and go do whatever I'm going to go do, knowing that I'm a different person today than I was 6 and 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
Yeah. And I hope, before my computer decided it was going to pass away for a second, right? that's what the point I was trying to make was just that you're not the same person you were 10 years ago. I'm not the same person that I was 10 years ago. Do I want someone to hold it against me? Something they freaking that I buried deep down and they want to resurrect this dead horse that is no longer the person that I am and hold me accountable to something that I don't even recall saying? No, it's unfair, right? I would hope that the coach of the Oakland Raiders has evolved as a person, not the Las Vegas Raiders has evolved as a person.
That was amazing.
LA,
that was amazing.
Has evolved as a person. I forgot when I heard it's no longer the Oakland Raiders. I struggle with that, so I apologize. But still, it doesn't take away from the fact that why do we hold someone against what they said 10 years ago? I'm not who I'm going to be 10 years from now. And I hope someone doesn't see this and think that we're a cancel culture because we said something that we are just being truthful on, right? Trying to be biased but truthful at the same time and cancel us because for what? Because we said, you're not the same person 10 years ago? Okay. That's unfair.
Yeah.
So it's fair.
Yeah, and the second part to this is, as cancel culture goes and goes and goes, Dave Chappelle is next on the block, right? And it's almost like nothing matters anymore. Dave Chappelle, who is a black man, is now getting canceled just because he wanted to make a statement. Like, what happened to free speech? Because I think as much as it sucks, again, the reason why the U.S. is such a great country is because we have the Bill of Rights. And you can't say that hate speech is not free speech, right? Because then you're putting limits on it. And even though, as terrible as that sounds in certain points, and not saying that I agree with those, with hate speech and different things like that, but free speech is free speech. If someone wants to say something stupid, they have every right to say something stupid, whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah, I feel like they put, let's just say, celebrity, right, or someone that's in that position, like they hold you to a higher standard, right? You're supposed to, put it out there, whatever. But you're talking about Dave Chappelle, who made his living ripping on Prince, with his Eat Your Pancakes, Game Point blouses, and one of his best skits where he's acting like a crackhead with his, like white all over him, his freaking ashy hands and whatever else. I mean, you're talking about someone that like was regarded for these, over the top characters that he created in his skits, so for him to now be in the same atmosphere where it was acceptable, like even if you take, for example, mine and Chris's favorite movie, Coming to America, if that were to be released today, it would be canceled. It would not be acceptable. It wouldn't, and that's the reality, where it's like something that I love it because it's just funny, right? I'm not a racist person. Chris isn't a racist person, right? You're talking about Eddie Murphy raw. I mean, some of the stuff that he said, and even his stand-up stuff, right, that he did in the 80s and the 90s, you can never put that kind of stuff out now, right? But he's still highly regarded as one of the best comedians ever, and it's just, so you're talking about the same people putting out the same material in a different generation, and like that has to be a little bit of a struggle. If you're playing devil's advocate, it's got to be a struggle for them because they're used to being their transparent selves, and now they're not allowed to be their transparent selves because they're putting out the same material. They're just talking about topics that are relevant today versus what they were talking about back in the 90s and whatever, so like I see both sides.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, whatever happened is sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
That was only in kindergarten. Apparently now, as you've gotten older, that actually is one of the biggest problems is people are such sissies that they can't handle someone else saying something that they don't like. Like, when did you need the approval of some random stranger? I think it's hilarious. I think one of the funniest things is like Mike Rowe, who is like the guy who does America's Dirty Jobs or whatever. He's fantastic, but there was like a Twitter exchange with someone where she was like, "Hey, if you actually like this, and I forgot what it was, is some right wing thing." She goes, "Then I don't respect you at all." And he wrote back to her, was like, "How interesting that it is that you think that I crave your respect or need it." Like, that's the response. And where did we lose that along the way? And Dave Chappelle is actually the best person. He's a pretty big liberal, quite frankly. He's well noted. Him, Bill Maher, and all these people are starting to see that the clown world that we live in, I guess is the best way to say it, is the clown world that we live in, is that there's these small minority groups who keep screaming at the top of their lungs that they're offended. Who gives a shit if you're offended? Why do I care? Sorry. Attack helicopter. I swore again. My bad. But I'm saying, like, I actually watched the Netflix special with Dave Chappelle, the one that everybody's flipping out about, The Closer. And the part that everybody's all up in arms about is because he talks about the transgender community, the LGBTQ transgender community, and he just says, basically, what's the deal with gender is a fact. These people, one of the funniest parts of it, and we don't have the clip here, but he's talking about, a man who becomes a woman. Like, I could do that, right, Becky? I could become a woman. If I decided I wanted to be a woman, but you want to know what the difference between me and you would be? I got impossible pussy. Or beyond pussy. It ain't real pussy. You got the real thing.
Geez.
A kid could come through your legs, but a kid ain't through my legs no matter what I do. So that is Dave Chappelle, and that was the best part. I was dying. I couldn't laugh when he said impossible. I was like, oh my God. Even my wife, Kat, was like, that is hilarious. But
I think the best part about that is the reference to the Impossible Whopper.
I know, the Impossible Whopper, but the burger. It's not a real burger. It's not real
meat.
It's close. It's close. You can do a lot of the same things, but it ain't the real thing. You know what I mean? So, what do you think, Becky? I mean, are people too sensitive these days about stuff like that? I mean, for God's sakes, you probably run into it, being in a relationship where you're marrying your wife coming up here. So you've dealt with this. You've grown up with it. And are people stupid, or like, where's the line? Like, obviously people say stupid things all the time. I'm sure you've heard no shortage of it, but you never struck me as somebody who's like, oh my God, my life's ruined because of so-and-so and what they said.
No, definitely. I mean, my life has never been ruined based off of a comment, but that's also based on how I was raised, right? I think that, I was raised where I had a very nice foundation to stand on, right? So even growing up, there was a moment in time where my parents weren't exactly thrilled that I was going to seek a path where my life was going to be not the easiest, right? Not that they wanted me to seek the path of least resistance, but, like you envision your child, right? You're talking like, it's a like years and years and years ago, right? So it's a different culture now, right? So you're talking about like, you don't ever want your child to struggle, right? Let's talk about that. So was there a moment where the reactions came out of the thought that I might struggle based off of what other people's opinions are? Yeah. Did they want that for me? No. But at the same time, before I decided who I was going to love, I was fortunate to grow up in a family where I had such a great foundation that it didn't matter who I was going to love. I was already going to be the person who I was going to be, regardless of who I was going to bring into my atmosphere and love, right? So I'm fortunate in that regard. So did I see other people's acceptance? No, I didn't. If someone had a problem with me, sometimes it hurt my feelings, like as far as like, dang, like you have it would hurt me in my feelings in the regard that like, dang, you have no idea who I am. What a shame, right? You're missing out. That's how it hurt my feelings. Not like I'm going to curl up in a corner and your opinion is going to now negate the next 5 years of my life, because I think that's all about perspective, right? Right. But did it hurt my feelings in the regard that like I felt upset for them that they're missing out on me? Yes. They're missing out on something great because I know what I can deliver and I know the person that I am. And so in that regard, it hurt my feelings. But people are closed-minded, right? I feel like when I was younger, I had to make sure that people knew who I was before who I was going to love, because people are closed-minded, right? I feel like people would not maybe work with me in business aspect because maybe they're over religious and they're scared, right? People fear what they don't know all the time, right? But it doesn't mean that I'm going to look at them and give my gay cooties to them, right? I'm not out here trying to kick it to your wife. It's that's not how it works, right? It's just that everyone is different, and who I'm loving, not in your vision, has nothing to do with who I am as a person and how I'm going to treat you, right? So I feel like, there's that kind of mentality. It's very close-minded, but then you also have the people that were not as fortunate as I am, and they really have suffered some severe slander. You have some, gay men that have lost their lives. For me to sit on a pedestal, in essence, some people now where they've lost their lives in these small, like cities where like strapped to a fence post and left for dead because of who they chose to love. I mean, so I understand that, even the transgender community, that's the most misunderstood community as well of all of us. So it's like people are like, well, I don't get it, right? You're either, okay, you're gay, you're not gay, then there's bi, okay. But transgendered are the most misunderstood because people can't wrap their minds around like them feeling like they're legit trapped in someone else's body. They don't feel like their whole self. So they might not want to be the whole, what did he call it? The whatever whopper, the
impossible.
Yeah, the impossible.
Beyond.
They might be, so they might be okay with that. I mean, I didn't see the special, so I don't know how it could be taken or not.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I started watching it, but I was like, man, this isn't his best work, so I cut it off before I even got into the other things. But I can understand and empathize because they're feeling like they are struggling and to get acceptance, and it's an easy target in some regard. So I can understand where people would be upset about that, but as far as like, let's just say you strip gay, bi, trans, just in general, people are just overly sensitive anyway. So forget about it talking about sexuality. I feel like everyone is just overly sensitive, which regards the cancel culture we're just talking about, so it's just that, I have a thick skin. I grew around people where like I'd show up at their house, at their mom's house, and they'd be like, didn't I just take you home? I would rather sometimes deal with their rejection than sometimes be where I was at, because I didn't care. Like I was forced to be in a situation where I had to have a thick skin. And I feel like sometimes these kids right now, I read an article actually today about where they feel entitled, right? My generation, we grew up where adults were respected. We existed because of them, right? It's not, now it's the opposite where it's like they exist because of their children, right? So I feel like, the kids are putting, they put the kids on such a forefront that things are getting lost, where now kids are growing up where they feel this sense of entitlement, where they can just, what they have to say is more important than what the adults have to say. They have nothing to say till you're on the phone, right? And I feel like that sometimes, the children, we're putting them, because we want to, as a mom and dad, you want to do better than what you had naturally, right? I feel like that's what you want, right? You naturally want to give your child something better than what you had, right? Schools, clothes, I only got $100 for school clothes, right? I don't know how my parents did it. I don't know how my parents did it with the four of us with a one income, right? But that wasn't saying that my dad wasn't working his butt off to do what he was doing for us, right? And it wasn't like I wasn't ungrateful for those things, right? But in your mind, you're like, okay, well, $100 for school clothes ain't gonna buy you nothing, right? So you like give and you more and more and more and more to now, like, unfortunately, we're feeding the animal of our children being entitled, which is now feeding this other beast that we're talking about right now, where it's like no one knows how to handle the word no, right? Heaven forbid an inconvenience happen in, someone's life that's maybe the age of 20, depending, not all of them, right? But people don't know how to deal with inconveniences the way that they used to. And that's my other rant.
There's this wild, overly sensitive culture that just because I want it done, it should be done. And, with exactly like you're saying is, I don't get why someone has to have or push their beliefs on someone else. If someone else wants to live whatever life they want to live, let them go live it. If someone wants to be a crackhead, then be a crackhead, right? You're just gonna have to deal with whatever consequences there are, whether those consequences are good or bad.
Right. You're free to make whatever choice you want, but you're not free of the consequences of your choices. Exactly. I mean, you're talking, like I've been in situations. Do we have an aha moment?
That was awesome.
It's true though, right?
True.
I mean, I've even been in situations where men have made unwanted advancements on me, right? Even though I have no interest in men.
I apologize for that, Becky. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to. I didn't know.
I mean,
my co-host is about to be canceled.
I mean, I'm just saying I've been in those situations. Like I can empathize with everybody, because, but you can make your choices, but there's consequences to everything that everyone does.
Right. See, I think there's like so many of these words and that we grew up with that are now being stigmatized to have a certain connotation, just like the word consequences. If you say the word consequences, does someone think that has a good or a bad connotation to it? Most likely bad, but a consequence is just a consequence. That's just the result of an action, right? And it's like whenever someone drills down because they feel like they were offended because someone said something to them, like just move on with your life. Not everyone is gonna like you in life, no matter who you are. Not everyone's gonna like you no matter who you are every day when you run into them. Not everyone's gonna like you. So stop worrying about what other people think and live the life you want to live. And the flip side to that is just don't force other people to live a certain life because of what you think they should live, right?
Well,
yeah, I mean, it goes with, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, one of the problems is, and as Dave Chappelle and his show, and I encourage everybody to actually just check it out and see it for themselves, but he's talking about one of his friends who happens to be transgender, a girl named Daphne, who she's a comedian, and he has her do his open show and like all this other stuff. Well, it comes out where, everybody's coming after him, and she went on because she was friends with Dave and defended him. And the community that she wanted to be a part of, the transgender community, the cancel culture came at her and attacked her on Twitter, and to the point where, and spoiler alert, but she jumped off a building and killed herself.
Oh my God.
And it's tragic. I mean, it's sad because that's the power of the cancel culture, and that's why this needs to stop. It's not appropriate. We need to let people be. And I mean, it's crazy, you know, that
it's reverse bullying.
Mentality.
It's reverse bullying. It's, you know, like, you know, that, you know, like I said, they're the most, I would say that, you know, group is the most misunderstood of the LGBTQ, you know, trans. They're the most understood because people don't understand it. And, you know, some people need to educate themselves a little bit more. But when, you know, like, you know, someone like for herself, she genuinely had a relationship with Dave Chappelle, right? So she knew in her heart of hearts that he was just doing it for comedic purposes, whatever, you know, maybe she had a different relationship for him, but like, you know, for her to feel so bullied, to make it that far and feel that bullied in that situation to the point that she could no longer handle it within the capacity of her life. That's unfortunate, because I know that the transgender community is not something that they would want their own to take their own life, right? That's just as bad as someone from the outside pushing them to that point where they feel like they can no longer live. So that's very unfortunate, and that's very sad. And you're right. You know, it does have to, everyone can have an opinion, and that should be okay. You know, you can, every argument does not have to be a disagreement.
And every argument doesn't have to have a set conclusion.
Or every disagreement does not have to be an argument, I guess is what I meant to say. You know,
correct.
Like you don't, just because you don't see eye to eye, it doesn't have to be this blowout. It just be like, okay, agree to disagree, but I still love you.
Okay.
You love me, and we're going to find a common ground to coexist and punch life in the face together in a good way. You know?
Let's go.
Hallelujah, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm fired up. Well, this is why I love Becky. She's the most down to earth, most real person. And from day one, I've always loved you. I thought you were awesome. And I was joking about that earlier, just FYI for our crowd here. I never did hit on her, or I was never inappropriate.
No, so, I will say that, like, in my life, you know, it was a joke, 1,000%. And that's why, you know, because it's so, you know, I know Chris like that. And you're right. Like, Chris, you've always been one of those people where I've never felt threatened. I've never felt that I had to be someone that I wasn't. And you've always seen me for who I am. And I will say I appreciate that about you tenfold, because that is a rarity where you're not even just me personally, but like, you see people for who they are and you accept them, and there's no hidden agenda. There's no ulterior motive. It is just, you bond, we hit it off, and that is it.
You mean that I like people for, you know, who they actually are, and I'm not caught up in all the bullshit. Sorry. I'm on fire today. I've dropped a few cuss words, but you know what? The fact of the matter is, I wish more people just had that skill set. And actually, it just comes from being comfortable with who I am. I don't care if you like me. I am who I am.
You are not the government.
I'm not the government. I'm not. I don't want to tell you. I'm also.
Well, if I talk about an amethyst tree, you're not going to be the reason why it shows up on my Google. An amethyst tree just shows up. You're not the reason.
Well, that's a scary thought, but it's fun. But I think it's a good lesson too, that people just need to, you know, I wish we loved each other more. To the point where, like, you don't even have to love your neighbor. Like, everybody's like, love like you love your neighbor, and it's like, I don't even know my neighbor. I love people that I meet and I, you know, work with and I care about. And, you know, like in my profession, I view what I do, there's extensions of what I do. I'm a real estate agent, and the mortgage broker is an extension of my family. The title person is an extension of my family. The inspector on the properties is an extension of my family, because we're all working together for the betterment of us, for the betterment of the family unit, of our choices, so we can have more choices to go do the things that we like to do that make us happy. And what I like to do is go out with Becky and Mikkel and get some tacos.
Yeah, Taco Tuesday.
drink some margaritas, have a good time. You know, it's good. I like rolling out to Connecticut and hanging with my boy Chad, hitting the golf ball around, you know, doing whatever. It's fun.
I need to go to Connecticut myself.
Chris,
Let's
if
go.
I had $1 for every time you gave like a low-key real estate plug about yourself, I'd be a millionaire, man. I love it.
I know. It's my marketing budget. You know, I can either pay, you know, $10,000 to
Right, so now
or-
call me, right?
I'll just take that out of my DraftKings winnings.
Pack helicopter. I hate you right now. I suck so bad this year. It's not even funny.
And it's all about perspective, right?
Here we
It
go.
is.
Nice
I love
transition.
that word.
So
It is. I love that word. It's true.
I think it's so perfect that we had this in this part of the show. And what we want to talk about is the perspective of this. If you're in America, the one state where you think there's the highest taxes or the highest cost of living is probably New York and Los Angeles, right? So the two.
California, yeah.
Yeah.
The dumbest place you could possibly move with the dumbest rules and the dumbest people is California.
So you have Adele,
I
who
love
is
everybody, but I hate California.
But San Diego's so pretty.
It is.
So,
and I hate
Adele, who is a millionaire. She says she's moving to Los Angeles because she couldn't afford London house prices. That is wild. The reason I say it is because it's all about perspective, right? Adele comes from London where the house prices are wild. It's just like people who live outside of Toronto or in the Toronto, Canada area. House prices in Toronto, you get a $135,000 house in Michigan, and that house is $650,000 in the Toronto, Canada area. And that's very similar to Los Angeles. So I think it's a good time to like sit back and think about how much what we do in our lives, the different perspective that we all have, really affects our worldview. And it just emboldens our point to live your own life, because everyone has their own perspective on what life is. Adele thinks that house prices in Los Angeles are low. We're sitting in Michigan thinking, oh my God, that's like moving to Birmingham. Right?
There was a great TikTok about, and I wish I had it queued up or I could find it, but I know Becky saw it earlier this year. It was a guy imitating the home buying process.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that one where he's like, okay, this is an apple. And he goes, this is what the home buying process is. And he holds up an apple. He goes, this apple's going on the market here. And somebody goes, oh, it's an apple. Can I take a look? You know, how much is it? He's like, $5. And somebody goes, $10. And he's like, what? And then it keeps on going up and it keeps getting bid up. And he's like, can I see the apple? And then the guy's like, nope, it's an apple. You either want it or you don't.
Yep.
I have that video if you want to show it.
Dude, rip that video right now because it ends with the California guy who's like, what? I'm from California.
It's so true.
Is that apple for sale? Yeah, we're about to put it on. Apple
Yeah, cue
for
that
sale?
up.
Yeah, we're about to put it on sale right now, actually. Well, I'm in the market, so tell me about your apple. Why should I buy it?
TikTok.
Nice try. Okay, people, here's how this is going to work. I have an apple here. The highest bidder's going home with this. I want all bids in the next 2 minutes, then we're closing it. Bidding starts at $5.
Feeling pretty confident there, huh? I mean, don't you think?
$10.
He said starting at $5.
$15.
Is this a new apple?
Yeah, just listed. I'm pre-qualified. I'll pay cash. I got cash. 20, 30, 40. No, just make it 45.
Is it even worth
The
that?
backup cash offer is always present.
Please, this is the 8th apple I've tried to buy.
Could I at least see it up close?
Nope, it's an apple. You know what it is. You either want it or you don't. I'll take it for 100.
What? I'm from California. It's the cheapest apple I've ever seen.
120.
Why did I do that? Why? I don't. Excuse.
What? The cheapest apple I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh. See, I can actually relate to that because I personally just bought a house this year, and I should turn that fan off. It's probably really loud.
No, it's not.
I bought a house this year, and it was just a constant struggle to find a house. I think we looked at about 50 houses in the span of 2 months, and to get the house we had now, we basically found a house that had been just listed. We went and looked at it that afternoon, and we wrote them an offer that night and told them, you need to accept this offer tonight or we're not taking it. And that's what got us the house.
I like that, though, like that, drawing a line and setting your own expectations. There's nothing wrong with that. You must have worked with Chris Dayton, I would hope.
No, I'm in Nebraska.
He's a corn husker.
Do not associate me with that.
Husker of corn.
No, but in legit, though, I've heard that
master husker.
The reverse, like, expectation, drawing the line, like that has actually helped people. But like this market across the nation is unprecedented. Like it's something that people have not seen. I feel like it's calmed down a little bit since then. So like, are people submitting one offer and getting them accepted right now? Yes, they are. But 6 months ago, no, they weren't. They were trying to you have this like desperation mode where you got to throw in $40,000 over, asking, and like your occupation is you underwater basket weave, and that's how you're paying for the house or whatever you're doing. I don't know, but
or your OnlyFans page, right?
Yeah, I mean, whatever. But you're right. It is absolutely bananas, and it's in Michigan and everywhere. But like you said, the perspective is if it's something that you want, it doesn't matter the dollar amount. Right? Just like if you're going to stay in your house, right? You can over improve your house till the cows come home. But if you're going to stay there and that's your living, and then it doesn't matter that you've over improved your house because you're paying for what you want. And if you know that you're going to put yourself in a negative equity position because you paid $30,000 over what the appraised value is, okay, but just know you're going to stay there for 5 years. And when they talk about the housing bubble, just know it's an artificial housing bubble because you put yourself in that housing bubble because you overpaid for a house and the market just naturally just stayed exactly where it was because you overpaid at the time. I mean, so as long as everyone understands that, I'm here for it because you're buying something that you want and that's what you want. And okay, would I pay $10 for something that costs $2 if I really, really like it? Yeah. Because I'm going to keep it forever and ever, and I'm going to hold it and put it in my pocket and do what I want to do with it.
Well, we do that every time when we go see a movie and we buy a bucket of popcorn. Mm-hmm. Popcorn's $10. Well, it only costs 30 cents at the store.
You're paying for the experience.
Right. Exactly.
And that was awesome. That's why Becky Alley is a top 1% loan originator in the country.
Full circle.
Throwing out all of the words, right? Negative equity. That's fantastic. And so, I mean, how do we see this whole inflationary boom going on right now? Because the cost of regular everyday goods is rising, and it's not just housing prices, right? Because of what's going on right now. I mean, a gallon of gasoline went from, I think it was $3.36 on average to $3.80. So that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 50 cents on $3, which is an almost 20% increase in the cost of goods, right?
I mean, you're talking about a whole $1.50 where it was a year ago.
Yeah, it was like $2.20.
Or even wasn't it like almost like $1.50? Not even like in 2020 at one point, or am I making that up?
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, it got low. In some areas, it was under $1 for the first time since I remember growing up in
1994.
Yeah. I mean, I remember rolling down the gas station at like 8 years old, and a Sunoco had it for 98 cents. And I said, "Oh, look, Mom, wow, gas is under $1." I mean, we never saw that since 1998. It was wild.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, how do you think some of this, the housing market, different things like that, the supply chain, getting some parts is taking forever for a ton of industries, even building materials for homes? Who do you think is to blame in some of this stuff? How do you think some of this stuff is going to affect us 3-5 years down the road?
I don't know. I think the whole thing that scares me too. Like you're talking about, like that scare tactic, and you're talking about, like these, barges, right, that are just like, backed up, all like around our perimeter, and they're saying it takes 3 months to unload one, and order your Christmas presents now or you're never going to get them. It's feeding that fear mongrel or whatever. It's just that, it's never ending, and it's like, how can you possibly keep up with all that? I mean, lumber has went down, but of course they're not going to decrease the prices because now everyone is used to paying those higher prices. So is that what's happening? Right. You get, you're like, oh my God, a banana is, it went from 80 cents to $1, but then everyone's used to paying $1 now. And then you're not going to drop it again. Right. It stay once it's up for the most part. It's something that it has to be considered because you have people that are struggling to pay their bills and their rent and taking care of their kids. And, part of it is, the unemployment benefits. People weren't working. People are begging people to work. I mean, that's a lot of everything that's happening that's kind of scary, actually.
So, Becky, when you're doing like mortgages and you see people applying for mortgages and things like that, I mean, that's a big step in most people's lives where they're buying a home and that pre-approval process or coming to a lender and saying, hey, I want to buy a home. They have to qualify for that. They have to show assets. Are you seeing a squeeze on people's incomes, from their liabilities and how much money they make, or like gaps in employment?
There is, for whatever reason, recently, just this week alone, so it's kind of ironic that you brought that up. There's a lot of applications I've looked at where there is a lot of gap, right? And you have that excuse of, well, COVID-19, right? Well, COVID-19 wasn't happening in 2019, so what were you doing then, right? So there's a lot of people are now trying to use it as a crutch to escape. Well, 2019, blah, blah, blah. Well, then 2020, well, naturally everyone, whatever happened there. But that's also setting that stage. Whereas when someone's trying to buy a house, you are telling a story that you have the financial soundness to buy a house. You can understand that the lender is, in some cases, no matter what, the majority investor of your home. So why would they not want to see your bank statements? Why would they not want to see your pay stubs, right? You're showing that you're a financially sound person that's going to pay us back. We don't want to take your house. No lender wants to take someone's house. I mean, how annoying to do all that, right? But, the point is that you are showing that we're the 95% investor in your home, that you're going to raise your family. And so when you get frustrated that we're asking for a bank statement and you left out page 5 that has all the checks, we have every right to ask for those things because we need to make sure that you're not writing checks that are a secret liability that could, throw your debt ratio out of control in 6 months that you can't afford a house that you're saying that you can. I mean, so there's a lot of, and there's always going to be the buying the house with sunshine and rainbows and things like that. But, our job is to identify the problem so that way we can get you across the finish line because you can't make the stuff up. It either fits or it doesn't. Have, the no longer stated income, all that weird stuff. But at the same time, they have gotten more comprehensive. It's progressive, right? They're not saying everyone's cookie cutter. They're not looking to deny a loan, right? Even conventional, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac came out with, they're no longer going to negate like a 620 FICO score. They're going to look at the overall profile because sometimes life happens, right? There's things they are looking for ways to get more people into homes. I mean, so no one's out here trying to keep you. So it's not, no one's picking on you, but we have every right to ask for certain things. But you also need to make sure you're working with the right people that can identify the problems and not tell you what's wrong, but find out the solution to tell you what's right and how to get you there. Word.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
why you need to choose Becky Alley at Capital Mortgage Funding.
Yeah, we'll give her plenty of plugs, throughout this process. But, I think there is a interesting gap in the labor sector, so to speak, with people not working or saying that they're afraid to work or not being able to get
there's a lot of job pumping.
Well, what's interesting is because, when we were talking about the inflation and the cost of stuff, and then you look at the supply chain, with my background in economics, that's what I look at and say, okay, well, if there's supply chain problems, then people can't get the materials that they need to be employed, once that gets to the finish line, so you got to get products from point A to point B, and often cases to point C, D, E, and F. And that is, it's important to have that so that people can say continuity of employment. Because, you look at a job site or the trades. I know friends of mine that are electricians and they're sitting on waiting for parts. They're just waiting.
even the automotive industry, right? So like my brother works for Ford. I mean, he's been laid off more than he's ever been because of the chip shortage, right? And, you know, it's not like they're schlep rocks just like trying to suck the unemployment, you know, teat, if you will, right? It's, they really legit
A schlep
have
rock sucking the unemployment teat.
Yeah, I mean, they really are. There is no work for them because of, you know, like they are waiting for their parts to get to them. And he's like, and my brother is having an issue. He hates not working. You know, he was like, I can't stand it, but he's been off so much. I mean, and then you have these people that are trying to buy houses, right? And we can't close because when we do a verification of appointment, it shows that they're laid off, right? So you have to wait till they're back on the job again. And it's that like you're chasing something that you can't control.
Maybe he could run for office.
Yes, and give a good politician hand.
In the government.
Right. Hey, you never point, right? You always use the finger.
Yeah, it's the finger in the thumb.
It's not. Yeah, it's not super.
Like you're on a game show and you're ready to freaking buzz in. It's not aggressive. But when you get real aggressive, you put that knuckle out a little bit.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome.
It's so funny because it's true.
It is. Good politician hand.
So I think, you know, with that said, Becky, it's awesome having you on. I think it was a great show. Mr. Christopher Dayton over there, always awesome chatting with you. And I think a good point to wrap up everything we've talked about on the show is this. So Rand Paul made a statement. It says, the founders never intended for Americans to trust the government. Our entire Constitution, it just got removed from my screen. There we go. Our entire Constitution was predicated on the notion that government was a necessary evil to be restrained and minimized as much as possible.
Well, Commander Whalls.
Have you seen The Handmaid's Tale, Becky?
Yes. Oh my God, so good. I got Chris on it.
Becky
is actually got Chris on it. Okay.
Becky is the person who told me to watch it. Actually, the first time I watched the very first episode, I was thinking to myself, Becky, what in God's name is happening here?
Those first few episodes are wild.
Yeah, but it's so good because you can see how it could happen to someone.
Right. That's why we
be still my ever beating heart. I was like, oh my God.
Well,
Commander Dayton.
Blessed day, my friend. Blessed day.
Blessed be the fruit under his eye.
Under his eye is the right.
And I almost called Becky of Becky. Commander Alley. Be awesome. We'll catch you guys next week.